Hi, and welcome to What's Not to Like. This evening, looking at Hamburgum by Mac Gertz. And we actually played the game Londinium, which is the reverse side of the board. And as you can see, I don't actually have the game in front of me because it's Peter's copy. And so I'm going to use some of the photos we took from the evening to illustrate what we're talking about. The first thing I want to mention is the rondel system. Well, the rondel is such a strong mechanic that we've all kind of got used to it, really. But the people who first invented this, I think Mac Gertz is one of the first people to really utilise it and use it in some very successful games. Really brought something very exciting to the table, because what I particularly like about the rondel is that it moves the game on very quickly. Your turns don't take too long. You're making a decision which you can plan in advance, and then you can crack on with just really one action and make the game really bomb along. So that's one of the strengths of it. But I think when people talk about a rondel system, they sort of kind of lump them all together. And I think that's very unfair, because a rondel does need a fair bit of design work doing on it if it's going to be successful. And what Mac Gertz has done with this is he's done one or two things with the rondel that I think I just want to point out that makes the game really quite intriguing. Just that calculation of how you're going to use the rondel. You'll notice that there are two trade segments, and the trade is split into two options. You can either buy materials or you can sell your goods, and you can only do one of those two options. So if you're in one half of the rondel and you're selling your goods, then obviously you've got some cash available, but you're going to have to wait till you get to the other side if you're going to buy some materials to do something with the cash you had. And of course it's 4 steps round to get to the other side of the rondel, which means you actually, to move the game on as quick as you might wish, you have to spend a victory point in so doing. So I think that's a really, really tight system there. Other aspects of the rondel, there are two really critical other places you've got to get to. One is the church, where you do building of the church and developing, and the other is on the opposite side, where you build your buildings. And the other elements are spread between them. So it's a really, really crisp, well-designed rondel. And I think players coming to this shouldn't underestimate how much effort and skill goes in designing something as successful as that. The second point I want to make about the game, and this is again looking at a game through the eyes of ourselves as designers, I often look at just the number systems in the game to see how elegant those systems are. If you look at the materials chart here, you'll see a nice series of elegant numbers, starting with 20, because I think if you started at 10, I think that would be too cheap to buy materials. So it's got to have a number that doesn't let you get things far too cheap. And then it steps it up gradually, and by the time you're buying 10, notice it's got to a nice round number at 600, and that's how he's kind of organised that series of numbers there. If you look at the one for selling goods, you'll see here a very simple system where one set of numbers, the selling value diminishes by 10 each time as the number of buildings increases on the map. Very straightforward, but it's the sort of chart and sort of number system that gives a designer a sense of that they're on the right track. You don't want systems that are too elaborate and too involved. You want things that can stick in people's heads easily and which make the game flow nicely. The third chart you see on the map is the one for the building and developing of churches. And again, you'll see a nice series of cost increases as going through that. So if you look at a game like this, you'll see that the number systems are elegant and fairly straightforward, easy to get your heads around. And they are a series of checks and balances to the game. You do need those number systems. You can't just put any old random numbers down, but you want those numbers to have a real sense of strong structure to them. And the third thing I want to talk about with this game is what I would say I call lumpiness in a game. This is a very elegant game. It's got lots of nice, straightforward things that, in a sense, you have to design them well, but they are familiar territory, so it's not too difficult to come up with ideas about moving and putting things next to each other adjacent and paying a bit more for this or a bit less for that. Those aren't terribly difficult things to design. But if you get too much of that, that is all fairly seamless and familiar territory, you don't get a game that really stands out from the crowd. So you'll need this sense of lumpiness, what I call lumpiness in the game, something that's a little bit different and that kind of jars the game a little bit and makes players play against each other. And in this game, I think that element is the ships element at the bottom of the board here. And this is a very straightforward system in a sense that you're simply moving ships along, and as you develop ships, other people's ships fall off the edge of the map. Really, there's enough space. But by doing that, you're limiting what players can do when they sell their goods. I played the game the other night and eventually didn't really sell that many goods in the end because I got ahead of steam up in other ways. But I was always conscious in the game that my plans could easily be scuppered by other players building more ships and forcing my ships off that track. It's in the rondelle. It's quite an oddity in the rondelle. It's the odd man out in some ways. And of course you tend to skip over it. But you're always watching, are other players going to skip over that, or are they going to go and land on that and put you in trouble? So I really like that lumpiness in the game as well. I think it's a terrific game. I'd recommend it to people who haven't played this sort of rondelle game or anything like that. And I know Rick found it quite a challenge. So I hope you've enjoyed watching and look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.